Hello parents and students. Wanted to come to you with a couple review questions, or I shouldn't say review, but questions from the Topic One Midpoint Quiz. And I'm actually going to specifically focus on ones that were a little bit of a struggle for some of us. And the reason why I'm doing this is you could see something similar to this on the post test. You want to learn from those mistakes, so maybe you learn from these mistakes and don't make those again. You kind of start to make the connection between these questions and questions similar in nature. So let's take a look. It says the length of Chen's office is 15.5 feet and the width is 7 8/10 feet. Use the formula P equals 2L plus 2W to find the perimeter of the office. First thing I notice, not many kids are doing kind of any underlining, boxing in, things of that nature, circling in the question. So we have the length, and according to this, the length is 15.5 feet. Okay, so this length connects to the 15.5 feet. The width is 7 8/10 feet. Now I sometimes like to box in verbs. It says use, so that means use this. Use what? Use the formula P equals 2L plus 2W. So I'm going to write that down here. P, this is what I need to use. P equals 2 times, they use a cursive L so it isn't confused with a number 1, times 2W. Now, several of you in class realized, hey, there's no operation sign between the 2 and the variable or the 2 and the variable here. And that tells us we need to multiply these together. And because they give us the length and a width, I can then infer that L stands for length, W stands for width. So I'm going to rewrite this formula now by substituting in values. And I'm hoping to use some terms here that might ring a bell from last year. So we know the length is 15.5 feet. The operation between these two terms is addition, and then it's 2 times the width, which in this situation is 7 8/10 feet. I'm then going to multiply. When I multiply, I get 15.5 times 2, or 15.5 plus 15.5. 15 plus 15 is 30. 2 halves equal 1. I get 31. Plus 2 7s are 14. 2 8s are 16, so I have a 6 in the tenths place. Carry that 1 10 over. So now we have 15. I am now going to add these two terms. 31 plus 15 and 6/10 should give me a grand total of 47 and 6/10, and I need to label it, and it is feet. All right. If you can't see how I added that up, I would take it 31 tenths here, or 31, plus 15 and 6/10 here. Notice when I add, I must line up the decimal points. The decimal point is behind the 1, or it's after the 1's place, to the right of 1's place. I can add a 0 here to maintain that, annex a 0, and then there's my addition. So my final answer is 47 and 6/10 feet. Many of you just added 15.5 plus 7 8/10. There, think about it. Sounds like Chen's office is a rectangle. So if I wanted to draw a rectangle to help me out, I know the rectangle, we have a length and a width. Hey, this is 15.5. This is 7 8/10. You cannot have you really can't have a two-walled office. Remember, opposite sides of a rectangle are congruent. There's my congruency tick marks. 7 8/10 is congruent to the opposite side. So that way you think about perimeter going all the way around. We'd add all that up. Thing is, the question says to use this formula. So I would have to utilize this formula. Hopefully that helps you out with this one. Next one. Mason has 1,015 pounds of apples. He sells 9 bushels, 24 boxes, and 40 bags. How many pounds of apples does Mason have left? Now, first thing I notice, they're asking me how much he has left. And when I hear left, I think of subtraction. I'm going to put sub here. So that tells me I'm going to subtract something. Now, Mason started with this, 1,015 apples. 1,015 apples. This is his starting point. This is what he has currently. Mason has 1,015 pounds of apples. He's going to sell 9 bushels. Well, I see here that bushels, and I use this table here, 25 boxes, 40 bags. 1 bushel is a grand total of 39 2/10 pounds. A box of apples is 15.5 pounds, and a bag is 5 5/10. So maybe a parent would buy a bag. Maybe a school teacher would buy a box, and maybe a restaurant would buy a bushel to supply their customers, their students, or their children with apples. And again, the larger the quantity or the heavier the weight, probably the bigger the business or the bigger the people purchasing it. So I'm going to go over here, bushels. I'm just going to U. I notice it's 39 and 2/10 pounds or per bushel. But you know what? He sold 9. I can either add 9 together, or 39 and 2/10, excuse me, 9 times. Or I'm going to multiply. 18. That is 81. 9 times 9 is 81. Plus 1 is 82. Put the 8 up here. 9 times 3 is 27. 27 plus 8, I think, gives me 35. Now, I could stop here and say, oh, he sold 3,528 pounds of apples. Oh, wait a minute. He only has this much together. Forgot to move the decimal point over. So it's 352 and 8/10 pounds. Let's look now at, he sold a bunch of boxes as well. I'm going to call that BO. Well, each box weighs 15.5 pounds. Oh, my active slate just powered off. 15.5 pounds. Now, he's going to sell 25 boxes. It's going to look sloppy for the next little bit here. 15.5 times 25. Well, that is 25. That gives me 25, 26, 27. That gives me 7. Done with this, I'll cross it out. I will annex a 0 here to hold that place value. 2 times 5 is 10. Move the 1, 10. 2 times 5 is 10, plus 1 is 11. That gives me 3. Add this up. I get 5, 7, 8, and 3. Don't forget that decimal point up here. Move it over. So guess what? Sold 387.5 pounds of apples when they came in the box form. Now let's go to bags that maybe a parent would buy if they have children at home that are going to lunch and got a healthy snack or something like that. Now we have bags. They come, it's 5.5 pounds per bag. Well, I'm going to buy 40 bags. I'm going to put 5.5, and let's talk about this. I'm going to put 5.5 up top. I'm going to put the 40 on the bottom. They both have the same number of digits. But because we're multiplying by the last number, or the number in ones place here, is a 0, I'm going to put the 40 like this. Because we already know that everything times 0 is 0. That's just going to drop this 0 down. We go 5 times 4 is 20. 5 times 4 is 20, plus 2 gives me 22. Throw a decimal in there. Let's get that. There is my weight. To kind of help make this a little neater, I'm now going to add all these up, but I'll use my... So we have 352 and 8/10. Let's combine how much weight he sold altogether. 387.5 pounds. And then we have 220, and I'm going to put the decimal point there just to keep it consistent. Now I'm going to add all of these up. Let's start over in my tenths place. 8 plus 5 is 13. I'll bring the decimal here. We would add the 110 up top. 7 plus 2 is 9, plus 1 is 10, so there's another 0. I'm going to kind of back this up, keep it aligned. The 1 up, 8 plus 2 is 10, plus 5 is 15, plus 1 is 16, so there's a 6. Put the 1 up top. We have 3 and 3 is 6. 2 plus the 1, group 100 is another, so we have 960. 960 pounds is what he sold. He had to begin with 1,015. How much does he have left? Well, we have 1,015, and I'll put a decimal place here to keep that lined up nicely. Minus 960 pounds. 960 and 3/10. First mistake I saw a lot of. We just decided to take 3 minus 0. Can't do that. Remember, you need to rename, regroup, help yourself out here. So to cross out the 0, that becomes a 10. So I'm going to put my decimal. Let's get this over here. Again, apologize for this. My slate powered down as I'm doing this, but I want to keep going. That becomes a 10. 10 minus 7, or 10 minus 3, excuse me, is 7. We have our decimal point. This becomes a 4. 4 minus 0 is 4. We then have this becomes, because it's a 4, I did not have to regroup or rename to get some things over. We could do that. That can't take 6 from 1, cross out. That becomes an 11. To make that 11, we have to borrow from here, which is a 9. Borrow from here to make that 9. We have to make this a 0. This becomes an 11. 11 minus 6 is 5. That becomes 0. That's 0. So he has left 54 and 7/10 pounds of apples, or you could also do LBS. All right, I'm going to let my slate charge up for a little bit. While that charges, I will then work on the other 2 questions that I thought we had some issues with. Okay? Hope this helps out in any kind of preparation you have, or parents, hope it helps let you see how I'm thinking about the problems. Or also, if you have another way, another algorithm, please feel free to work on that with your child and kids. Your parents know stuff, so listen to them as well. All right, take care. Bye.